The decision to send U.S. troops to Vietnam marked a significant escalation of American involvement in the conflict and reflected President Johnson's commitment to combating the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. Despite opposition from some advisors who questioned the wisdom and feasibility of military intervention, Johnson and his key advisors, including Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara and Secretary of State Dean Rusk, believed that American intervention was necessary to prevent the spread of communism in the region. This decision was supported by a significant portion of the American public, who shared the government's concerns about the threat posed by communist expansion. The prevailing sentiment at the time was that stopping the spread of communism was essential to safeguarding American interests and protecting the stability of the region. The deployment of U.S. troops to Vietnam was gradual but substantial, with troop levels reaching over 180,000 by the end of 1965, and eventually peaking at nearly 500,000 in 1967 under the leadership of General William Westmoreland. Despite initial optimism and the belief in the superiority of American military power, the conflict in Vietnam would prove to be protracted, costly, and ultimately deeply divisive for American society. The Vietnam War, indeed, turned into a protracted and challenging conflict for the United States, primarily due to several factors that contributed to a bloody stalemate. Firstly, the Vietcong's guerrilla tactics and their ability to blend into the civilian population made them elusive targets for American forces. Despite lacking advanced weaponry, the Vietcong employed hit-and-run ambush tactics, disappearing into jungle hideouts or intricate tunnel systems after striking, and utilizing booby traps and mines effectively. Secondly, the unwavering determination of the Viet Cong to resist and their willingness to endure heavy casualties in pursuit of their cause posed a significant challenge to American forces. General Westmoreland's strategy of attrition, aimed at wearing down the Viet Cong through constant attack, did not break their morale as expected. Thirdly, the inability of American troops to win the support of Vietnamese peasants undermined their efforts. The use of indiscriminate weapons like napalm and Agent Orange, which caused extensive collateral damage and harmed civilians, eroded trust and fueled resentment among the local population. Additionally, the conduct of search and destroy missions, which often resulted in the destruction of villages suspected of supporting the Viet Cong, further alienated the Vietnamese people. The combination of these factors led to mounting frustrations among American soldiers, whose morale suffered as a result of enduring hardships and facing the challenges of fighting a guerrilla war in unfamiliar terrain. The treatment of prisoners of war by the North Vietnamese added to the psychological toll on American troops, contributing to a sense of disillusionment and frustration with the war effort. The escalation of the Vietnam War not only led to an increase in the number of U.S. troops deployed, but also resulted in a significant economic burden on the nation. The rising costs of the war began to strain the economy, forcing President Johnson to make cuts to his domestic programs, such as the Great Society initiatives. Despite initial support for the war among many Americans, public opinion began to shift as television coverage provided a more vivid and unfiltered portrayal of the conflict. While the Johnson administration attempted to convey a positive narrative about the progress of the war, the stark and often brutal images broadcasted on television painted a different reality. Nightly news broadcasts brought the grim realities of the war into American living rooms, showcasing scenes of combat, casualties, and destruction. As a result, a credibility gap emerged between the Johnson administration's optimistic portrayal of the war and the harsh realities depicted on television. The discrepancy between official statements and the visual evidence presented on television eroded public trust and led to growing skepticism among the American people about the government's handling of the war.